The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. It is Monday, the 8th of December, 2025. We are live here at CHD TV. Right, this morning we are going to talk about ACIP, what happened last week, Thursday and Friday, and nobody better to talk about this than Karl Jablonowski from our Children's Health Defense Science Department. Good morning, Karl.
Good morning, Polly.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for live blogging for our viewers throughout the whole 2 days. We so appreciate you doing that. But that's why you're the best person also, outside of being our senior research scientist, to tell us what really happened. A lot of confusion out there. Let's start talking about the Hep-B. One comment I did see, which got a lot of people commenting again on that, was okay, one down, just 70 plus more to go. But is it one down with a Hep-B? What are we dealing with here?
No, so this is what I would consider the lowest hanging fruit for vaccine safety. It really makes not a lot of sense to vaccinate absolutely everyone for a virus for which, in a time period for which you would never be exposed to it. So the vote that changed the recommendation, at least what they will send to Acting Director Jim O'Neill, is that children who are born to a Hep-B negative woman, so someone who's not infected, does not need to receive a birth Hep-B vaccine. And that is really logical. These children are not going to be exposed to the virus, but yet the 2-month vaccination recommendation is still in the CDC immunization schedule.
Yeah, but so here's my issue. From all the stories that we had on the bus, some of the worst bullying I've ever heard is when they're in hospital. Is that still going to continue? Because we're still seeing pediatricians and OBGYNs recommending the COVID shot to pregnant women, Tylenol. So they're not taking any notice of whatever Bobby Kennedy's HHS people or the ACIP people recommend. So how is that going to pan out when you're a young mother and you don't want the Hep B and you're in hospital? How do you deal with this?
Right. So this is just a recommendation still, even if it gets a stamp of approval, it's just a recommendation. And I know that hospitals are automatic with a lot of things, and one of them is automatically giving your child a Hep B vaccine. You could tell absolutely every person you see, and you could write it on your birth plan, no Hep B vaccine. When they take your child, they may still administer a Hep B vaccine. You have to be really vigilant and keep your eyes on your child at all times, which is, right after giving birth, exhaustion, sleep deprivation. It's one of the hardest times to be an advocate, but you are the only advocate for your child.
Carl, do the hospitals or is there money behind the Hep B being given at birth?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Hep B vaccine regimen for the first 3 doses that are recommended in childhood would cost maybe up to $200. And everyone, the manufacturer, the administrators who administer the vaccine, and the middlemen, they all make money.
But I'm already seeing on social media nurses, people who work in hospital, posting, we're not going to listen to that recommendation. We've seen babies die from the usual line that they give the whole time. Hundreds of babies have died from not being given Hep B, which I'm sorry, it's just blatantly not true. So I just feel like that it could even be worse for those parents coming in, because there's so many people that are, I'm not going to listen to Quack Kennedy. He's not a doctor. So I just wonder how we can help the parents with their arguments if they have to go to hospital. And that's one of the main reasons parents don't want to give birth in hospital. One of the main reasons is they don't want to be doing the Hep-B fight or vitamin K for that matter.
Right. A universal blanket at birth recommendation for an injection, it only makes sense if there is no risk. And there's no such thing as a risk-free vaccine. And I do feel for every parent who needs to fight the system, because it is a system that believes that vaccines are risk-free. And ultimately they're not. And we see that every day, that the harms that accrue from vaccines.
Yeah, and we've seen horrific injury from the Hep-B vaccine. Someone was suggesting that it's very dangerous for the other side that the Hep-B is not recommended. So if people don't get that Hep-B, then they're going to not want to vaccinate, or that it's not going to be so in the system to vaccinate. I don't know really what's behind the people on the other side freaking out that the Hep-B is now not recommended. Like you just said, it makes total sense. Can we talk about the safety trials as well? Should we run that clip from Hogue for a second? Yeah, let's run that, Lou.
It's really important to keep in mind that the U.S. is an outlier in recommending a universal birth dose of the hepatitis B vaccine compared to other high-income nations. And the data that we used to approve the hepatitis B vaccines, there's two, Engerix and Recombivax vaccines for infants, were based on studies that had very short-term follow-up and no control group. It wasn't like it was a randomized control trial against another vaccine. No, there was not even a control group. It was just an observational study. We would never approve a vaccine based on data like those today. So that's important to keep in mind. And then we have these 5 randomized control trials that were identified by the CDC at the last ACIP meeting that we discussed. And these are short-term randomized control trials where the hepatitis B vaccine Recombivax was given and compared to other vaccines, so not compared to placebo. So we are working with very low level evidence here, and we have very limited confidence in what we say when we say these vaccines are safe. And so we have established that it does cause anaphylaxis, rarely fever, reactogenicity, and so I think that I agree with Retsef that we need to be humble, and when we're saying that we have the evidence that the benefits outweigh the harms here of giving this vaccine. And again, I think that there's a reason that peer nations to the United States do not recommend this vaccine routinely at birth when the mother is Hep B surface antigen negative. And so I just wanted to make those statements from a regulatory perspective, that we have a very low level of confidence in saying that we can say that these vaccines, that the benefits outweigh the risks with the amount of data that we currently
have. Isn't that the same with all the vaccines, Karl?
That is pretty in line with most vaccines. We have a low level of confidence.
And so talk a bit about, if you don't mind, the safety studies, because I think people still, not our viewers, of course, viewers, I know this is not you, but people out there are still like, well, they say they're safe and effective. You're not trusting the science. Can we just talk again about how they test vaccines?
Yeah, so if you just feel it out, you have a newborn baby, and someone's asking you to inject that baby with something. How sure should you be that that is safe? I would maybe feel safe if it were tested on, 1 billion people. The fact of the matter is that the birth Hep-B dose was tested on less than 150 infants, and they were followed 4 to 5 days. That is a very short window to see an adverse reaction. And many adverse reactions don't even appear until day 7. The science is lacking. This entire ACIP meeting has pointed to how lacking the science is on that recommendation, and it's just utterly crazy that the amount of people who believe in this safety when there's nothing to support it.
Carl, I'm worried about some people in our movement, some of the big broadcasters in our movement, saying that now that they're not recommending Hep B at birth, the SIDS is going to go right down. Here's what I've seen from the people in America. I've seen injury from the Hep B at birth. Very little death. Let us come to the bus, but so much death after the 2 and 4 month. Oh, so I'm a little concerned that there's a lot of premature celebrations. Yes, it's fantastic. They're not recommending Hep B at birth. Please, please understand how dangerous the 2 and 4 month plus vaccines are. That's where we see the SIDS.
Right. The entire vaccine risk aware movement has been working really hard to push this ball, and it moved an inch. It like nudged it. That it's great, but at that 2-month appointment is when your baby's body is going to be assaulted with the most number of novel antigens they will ever experience in their entire lives. That maybe if they join the US military and get deployed someplace pretty interesting, they may have quite a few other vaccines. But for the most part, you're facing RSV monoclonal antibody. You're facing a second dose of the Hep B, except now it's more likely to be the first dose. You're facing a rotavirus vaccine, which could have up to 5 live viruses: diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, Haemophilus influenza B, 15 to 20 different antigens for pneumococcal, and the polio virus vaccine, which inoculates you for 3 different strains of the polio virus, 2 of which don't exist anymore. It is, it is an onslaught. Your immune system needs to handle this when you are 2 months old, and that is a lot to ask of a 2-month-old.
Carl, why would they recommend a Hep B at 2 months? I mean, why would a baby need that?
So right before the ACIP meeting, Dr. Meryl Nass actually posted on her Substack a pretty interesting article up from the New York Times in 1991. And in it, big bold letters: if adults won't go for the shots, then give them to babies. One idea behind the strategy of vaccinating our children is to combat an adult health epidemic. And our children should not be used as a safety net. Another strategy for the Hep B vaccine, in my opinion, is what's a slippery slope argument, that if your child has not been ever vaccinated and you show up for that 2-month appointment and they're ready to give you a whole bunch of jabs, you might be like, well, wait a minute, let's take this easy. I don't know if people are not really aware of the complexities of vaccinations and they already received one, they might be more likely to get the 2-month regimen.
So everyone's talking about the Hep B right now, but what else was discussed at ACIP? I hear Aaron Siri did a great presentation. Can you talk about what else you heard and saw?
Yeah, so after the vote, Aaron Siri did a terrific presentation, which tore down the all of the trials for all of the vaccines and what they were compared against. And time and time again, there was never a placebo-controlled trial of any of the approved vaccines pre-licensure. They were all based on other vaccines, some of which have were already in common use, and some that were not. I mean, quite literally, there's vaccines whose control group was an experimental vaccination, and that's crazy on itself. And there's a really good importance of being able to understand what the safety profile of your control group is. Because if you're controlling for something that actually has negative efficacy, then almost anything you throw at it that has no effect will appear more efficacious. And we actually see that with the mRNA Pfizer influenza vaccine, the one that we had published on last week, that their comparator was the common influenza vaccine, which, if you do a test negative design, it looks effective. But if you do a prospective study, it has negative efficacy. And you could throw a placebo into that mix, and a placebo would look like it is protective against influenza compared to a negative efficacy vaccine. And there was something that really, I can't say shocked me, but I did not like that. After Aaron Siri presented his evidence, Dr. Cody Meisner, who's the antagonist of change on the committee, he actually said, "You're entitled to all the First Amendment rights, but," and then he went on to say why Aaron Siri should not have said what he said, but the entitlement to the First Amendment rights should never be followed with the word "but," because whatever comes after that is going to be reasons why they believe you should not have First Amendment rights. And after Aaron Siri's presentation, we also heard a presentation from Dr. Hogue on the comparison between U.S. and Danish vaccination schedules, which was pretty enlightening. The United States recommends vaccination in childhood for 18 different diseases. Denmark does not. They don't have a hepatitis B recommendation. They don't have an RSV. They don't have a rotavirus recommendation. They don't do, they were one of the earliest ones to stop the COVID-19 vaccine for children. They do not have an influenza vaccine recommendation, or a varicella, or a Hep-A, or a meningitis. I mean, they have a pretty controlled practice of public health.
Now, so after ACIP, Trump did a tweet, did he not? Which a lot of people thought was fake for a bit, but actually it's a true tweet, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So what Trump tweeted is that he signed a presidential memorandum which directed the acting director of CDC and the Secretary of Health and Human Services to compare our vaccination schedule with other similar countries, and then take action based on that. And I think it is a terrific, it is terrific that he weighed in, but I think it is a sign of pretty dire times that he had to weigh in, because the director of the CDC and the Secretary of Health and Human Services, it's already their responsibility. It's already within their purview. They already said they were going to do this. That the president weighed in. I think it's pretty clear that there are a lot of roadblocks from the director of the CDC and Secretary of Health and Human Services to actually achieve their goals, and that we needed a presidential memorandum to hopefully smooth out some of those roadblocks. And it's been evident from the beginning that just because you change the leadership of these organizations does not mean you change these organizations. There is a culture ingrained. The hepatitis B vaccine, for example, has been recommended by ACIP and the CDC for 35 years. That we see this much progress this quickly, I think is a testament to the leadership making that happen. But make no mistake, the culture in these organizations do not want to change.
And the other side are definitely losing their mindset. Even wheeled out Raquel Walensky from ex-CDC head. They're going to be wheeling out a lot of these people to make their comment. Tell us what she did.
Yeah, so the day before the ACIP meeting, she published an article in JAMA calling for a universal hepatitis B vaccination at birth. And it was actually a parrot of another publication published one day earlier by the ironically named Vaccine Integrity Project. That project is under CIDRAP. It stands for Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy of the University of Minnesota, and is headed by Dr. Osterholm. That is where I go to for the purest form of disinformation. Now, the Vaccine Integrity Project is funded by Cindy Walton. Cindy Walton is an heiress of Walmart and Walmart Pharmacy, who definitely has a financial interest in this reckless continuation of vaccination early and often. So I think that the conflicts are pretty straight. What was interesting in Rochelle Walensky's article, or her op-ed, is she used a model of hepatitis B to argue that, if you only vaccinated people's children where the mother was Hep B positive, you would be inducing a few more, maybe up to 200 more hepatitis B infections in neonates. The problem is that most of those added infections were from people who did not know their hepatitis B status. If you actually resolved the unknowns, you would be preventing about 700 hepatitis B infections in neonates per year. The idea that she is, recklessly assuming that, coming to the conclusion that every baby should get a hepatitis B vaccine when 1 in 200 are born to a hepatitis B positive mother is absurd. What we need is hepatitis B testing to be universal, and that can be done $5 to $15 for a point of care test to figure out whether or not you have a hepatitis B when you're giving birth.
Karl, thank you for all of this, but I just want to say one last thing, that people need to remember that there's never been such a growing movement of parents that have woken up and their babies are not getting vaccinated. They're not getting the vitamin K. There are millions of those children, adults now, running around America, and they don't have autism. They don't have paralysis from the waist down. They don't have asthma and all those allergies of the vaccinated kids. Do they get sick? Yeah, of course they get sick. They get fevers, they get colds, they get all the things that we used to get when we were children that are good for the immune system. But our movement is growing stronger and stronger every day. And that bottom line is the biggest threat to the other side. The evidence, the true vax-unvax study is in America already. We, the people, are proof of that.
Couldn't have said it better. I'm pretty excited for the outcomes of future ACIPs, and it looks like we are headed in the right direction on all counts. I think it would be helpful if we could steamroll some of the roadblocks that we have. I mean, for example, the vaccine safety data link that we have paid collectively hundreds of millions of dollars for is still not available at the discretion of the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And it's only a matter of time before those roadblocks do get ironed out. And those who stood between us and, the truth, the data, the actual ability to do the science and to save the children, they will have their reckoning.
No, well, Karl Jablonowski, thank you so much for all the work you do and our incredible team at the Science Department at Children's Health Defence. So proud to be working with you, and thank you for the blogging. Thank you for everything, for educating us. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So now we're going to go to Mothers to Be with Kelly Ryerson. Then we've got a story, but Michael Kane will be with you tomorrow morning as well. So thank you for your support, and especially supporting our science department is so important, so exciting to have real people, real scientists doing real work and breaking down the truth. So it's Monday. We've got a week ahead of us. Anything could happen, but we're reporting it here on CHD TV. See you soon.
Good morning, CHD. Welcome to our Mothers to Be segment, where we chat all things preconception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and that precious first year of life. I'm joined today by Kelly Ryerson. She is such an expert in the field of glyphosate and nutrition, and she is going to be chatting to us about glyphosate and the impacts that it has during that first year of life for baby. Everything from breast milk, first foods, and when the kids are a little bit older and probably getting into all those packaged snacks that I'm sure are just full of it. So welcome, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So my first question is about breastfeeding. Can glyphosate show up in breast milk? What do we know about that?
Yeah, so Moms Across America actually did a study some years ago because they were suspicious that potentially glyphosate might make its way through into breast milk, and it came back positive in many cases for the presence of glyphosate, which is something we definitely want to avoid. And it's just, I mean, what a horrible, horrible thing that is, that we even have to think about a pesticide going, and you think you're doing the best thing for your baby, which, you know, through the breast milk, and then finding out it's contaminated is not good. But what you can do, and you can dramatically decrease how much is coming out in the breast milk by just decreasing your intake. So thinking about eating organically as possible. And that alone is going to decrease how much is coming out through breast milk. Now, if you can't breastfeed, and I was someone who couldn't breastfeed, I didn't have milk, so that was really frustrating. And but there are organic formulas that are now out there that will not have glyphosate in them because they're organic. And that is something that's relatively new to the market, but it's a great alternative if you can't breastfeed.
Yeah, I was going to chat about formulas because, yes, there are organic ones, but there are also a lot of non-organic formulas out there on the market. Are these babies therefore being exposed to high amounts of glyphosate?
Oh my gosh. Just the junk that is currently, I mean, hopefully the new administration is going to rectify it, but the amount of junk that is in conventional, normal, Enfamil, or what any of these brands, Similac, it's so bad. And a lot of it has been based on soy, and in all of those types of GMO crops will have a lot of high levels of glyphosate in it. And so it's not only that, actually, there's a lot of heavy metals that can be found in the formula. It is really a disaster and really awful that the FDA has allowed it to go on this long, to have this kind of contamination when this is the only thing that our babies drink for the first 6 months of life. So it's very frustrating.
Wow. Yeah, that's really scary. I think at about 4 months, some pediatricians recommend rice cereal and adding that to formula. Is rice an issue with glyphosate? And what can mamas be doing if they are recommended that by their pediatrician?
Yeah, once again, like rice cereal is something that I fed my babies to. It is one of the very first recommendations. And once again, it goes back to what you're purchasing when you have your choice. So can you buy organic rice cereal? There is some that exists for sure. Rice isn't something that is typically pre-harvest desiccated or sprayed with glyphosate to dry for harvest. But if it's not organic, you don't know what was used for sure. So if it is organic, you know you're not going to have that glyphosate hit or any number of other really toxic synthetic pesticides that are on that would be used in the rice crop.
Yeah. And, you know, really for first foods, you think about the first foods that are offered to babies. There's a lot of things like oats and even soy and wheat.
all kind of mushed into this baby formulas. What do you recommend parents do when looking to feed first foods to baby?
Well, so yes, and one of the things too that was, I remember like giving my children Cheerios as the first thing to try and experiment with, right? And that is not something that I would recommend. Although recent testing of Cheerios for glyphosate levels has shown that it has come down quite a bit just because of the public pressure around Cheerios having a lot of glyphosate in it. But that doesn't mean that they're not using other pesticides, because what has happened is now so many consumer groups are testing things like Cheerios for glyphosate that some of the farmers have stopped using glyphosate, but they'll use other types of chemicals for desiccation, like paraquat, which is highly connected to Parkinson's disease and other problems. So there's this pesticide treadmill that, okay, so maybe there's not glyphosate, but there might be something even worse that they're using in the place. So that's why you can't, when I think it's admirable when companies come out and they say, look, we're glyphosate residue free. I mean, that's fantastic, but I wouldn't say that necessarily means, unless they're organic, that there aren't other things to be concerned about just because of this constant swapping of pesticides. So once again, going back to it being organic. I mean, I made some of my own from organic sweet potatoes and different things, but I also was really happy to purchase organic glass bottled food for my kids. And that was really wonderful. And I completely trust that. It can be more expensive. So that's something that commonly people talk about, that it's cost prohibitive, because it will be a little bit more expensive to buy the organic version. So if that's the case for you and you have some extra time to get your Vitamix or your blender out and be making the baby food yourself, that is something that is a great option as well.
And, through the work that you've done, we've learned why it is so important. So do you mind diving in a little bit about that? Why is it so important that we protect our kids, young kids, especially from glyphosate, and what can glyphosate do to their tiny little bodies?
I know. Oh gosh, it makes me so sad. Once again, I didn't know with my tiny little babies. So I'm like, oh, so I feel like my kids are a little bit older now. And so I've been having to restore their gut microbiome now, like retroactively. And this is one of the things that glyphosate does. So it actually is patented as an antiparasitic. It has this antibiotic property. And that is terrible, because we know just how vital the microbiome is in having it fully intact. And oftentimes, so let's say you have a C-section baby, that baby isn't going to have as diverse of a microbiome, because that baby didn't come through the birth canal, where there's a lot of bacteria that is beneficial to the baby. So then if you start feeding glyphosate on top of this, it's been shown that when you consume it, it goes and it selectively kills the beneficial gut bacteria. And it allows the pathogenic gut bacteria to proliferate. So like, it's a terrible type of like antibiotic, where it's only destroying the really good bacteria that we need, the lactobacillus. So there's that. It also, and one of the things too, is that it impacts through the same pathway that it works with plants. So it shuts down something called the shikimate pathway in plants to take away basically all energy and kill a growing plant. Well, this is true also for in your gut bacteria, because they have that same receptor. Bacteria has the same receptor that the plant does. So when the bacteria the good gut bacteria comes in contact with glyphosate, it shuts down that path. Well, the downstream, what that bacteria that is in your gut is creating are these aromatic amino acids. And that is upstream from the production of serotonin. So it specifically impacts the serotonin levels that your child will have, or you will have, when it starts to do this effect of killing the good gut bacteria. So it's connected with so many things, just particularly by way of the gut, things like ADHD, different autoimmune conditions it's connected to. It crosses that, I mentioned, it crosses the blood-testes barrier for our boys. It crosses the blood-brain barrier, which is highly problematic and is connected to different neurodevelopmental issues. So it is not our friend. I haven't yet seen a study that shows that it is beneficial in any way, because you sometimes wonder, okay, well, maybe there's a positive effect that we aren't aware of. No, I have not seen anything like that. It also will go in and when we think about the hormonal disruption, is a significant endocrine disruptor. So when you have young children starting to, these vital years and prepubescent years and then going into puberty, it's a time when those hormones are so important to have intact and balanced. And it makes it very hard when the children are eating glyphosate-based things to be able to fully regulate the hormones the way that they should be. And so, and this is true also, I'll just bring into the conversation atrazine. Atrazine is the second most used herbicide. It's the one that, if you've ever seen the sensationalism around turning the frogs gay, I actually know the scientist who did the study on frogs, and it showed that in environmentally relevant exposure levels to atrazine, it was changing it was feminizing the male frogs. So this is in our drinking water in a lot of places, in a lot of states in the United States. It's banned up everywhere else because it's such a significant endocrine disruptor that it is like so horrifying and shocking that we even still have it anywhere near anything in this country. And so that's another one. And to avoid that one, it's really important that you are giving your child and yourself a filtered drinking water. So a filter would be wonderful.
Beyond food, Kelly, what can parents be on the lookout for if they're trying to reduce glyphosate? Is there any other thing they should be aware of trying to reduce in their homes to protect their babies?
Yes. So one thing that is not widely known is that glyphosate is used in cotton growing. So GMO cotton the seed has been designed and developed to be resistant to the effects of Roundup. So the cotton farmers plant the seed, they can spray Roundup, glyphosate all on top of the crop, and it won't kill the crop because that seed has been designed specifically to withstand the Roundup. Then you think about what happens with that cotton. Well, Roundup and glyphosate are systemic, so they get actually into the plant. You can't wash it off. And so when you see things that are, if you ever have an option to buy things that are organic cotton for your child, that would be well worth the investment. There aren't studies that show how much residual glyphosate ends up in the cotton, but just knowing the dirty way in which it was grown is something that I would think and if you're going to just buy a few things like your crib sheets would be a good thing to have organic because it's on them constantly. And I would take a look at diapers and see if they're responsibly made. And there are so many brands now that are responding to what moms want in terms of diapers. So those are two things that you really can focus in on around the home. I would also take a very close look and be sure that your gardeners are not spraying anything, not just glyphosate, but other types of pesticides around places where your children will be walking barefoot and or down crawling with their hands. That is exposure you really want to limit because all of these different pesticide products can go up usually through the skin and go into the circulatory system. So we really want to decrease those types of exposures. So those are two big ones. Once again, going back to a water filter, that's a really big one. Taking your shoes off at the door is really important to limit how much you're tracking in when you've been out for a day and you've been out walking in places. You don't want to be bringing that into the home. So taking off the shoes is a really good idea. We were renting a house that had kind of a questionable carpet, and it was a very plasticky carpet, and so I just bought a big cotton blanket, like a big bedspread, and I would have my new crawlers crawling on that instead of directly on the carpet. So those are just some beginning tips that I think will make a difference.
Yeah, so helpful. And I love that you brought up crawling babies because that is so true. They're on the floor all the time, and whether we're tracking it in, through the shoes on our feet or yes, the carpet and even the rugs, where are we getting our rugs from? What materials are they using in the rugs that our babies are laying on, all day, learning to crawl on? So I think you raised some excellent points. Thank you, Kelly. So I wanted to close with hopefully a little bit of hope, depending on the answer. But for mums who may have given their kid the Cheerios or, may have not got the water filter installed when their kids were little, is there anything that they can do? Is it ever too late to start making these changes?
Okay, so I'm good for this because I was one of those moms. So I understand. I don't know. I had Enfamil, like just the conventional. Both my babies were C-section. I did feed them organic baby food, but it was I actually don't know why, because I wasn't even aware of all these things, but I did. But I would say that if that is the case, and this was so with both of my children, they both had digestive issues early on, and there was ADHD going on with my son, and I felt like they were sicker than a lot of other kids around, and so that was frustrating because, of course, like as moms, we immediately point to what we could have done better. And I know now there were a lot of things I could have done better, but you have to just be able to forgive yourself and move forward from this point on and say, okay, well, what can we do and hope that your kids are compliant with it too. Because that can be a fight when you're in Target and they're holding like gummy clusters or like Nerds gummy clusters and begging for it. And you're like, we're not going to have those. I mean, that's a big fight that I have all the time with my kids, and it's exhausting. And I know though that they will be healthier for it, but I hate those fights. But anyway, what you can do is retroactively when you have these problems. So for example, one of my children had a really bad issue with constipation, age 1 to 3. And so the answer was Miralax, which now it turns out is connected to all kinds of different physical problems that it can bring up. And that's awful. Those things didn't really happen. But what I didn't know is that if I changed the food, if I had put her on a gluten-free diet at that point, and been eating organically, and potentially sometimes there are all kinds of functional pediatricians that know how to rebuild that microbiome that might be lacking. So things like probiotics and different vitamins, and it's the same thing that happens with adults. A lot of times our kids are walking around completely vitamin deficient. So we can rebuild our kids even after we do these things. I have 2 thriving children now that they get sick from time to time, but I was able to rebuild their immune system and functionality so that so now that they're good. So I would say don't, and if your kids are struggling with various chronic things, like don't give up and really try and find that path out, because it's there. It's not ever too late.
Kelly, thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom here today. And if you guys are watching and have any other questions for Kelly or myself, please reach out. We'd be happy to help you on your pregnancy and preconception journey. We will see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
We are live. So tell us your name.
My name's Beth Swanson.
And you are?
This is Joseph.
And Joseph does letterboarding, so we're going to hear from Joseph in a minute.
Yes.
But this is fascinating, really, because Joseph, who is non-verbal but can letterboard, told his mum that the vaccines injured him.
I see him.
And he's pointing now to all the people who have died here.
Yeah, he's fascinated with the pictures.
We have a very big montage now, people. I'll have to show you around this bus. There's a lot of people on this bus.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened.
So, Joseph was born in 2000. He's got 2 older brothers, and he was vaccinated on schedule. He was not developing normally. He did everything late, and he had serious sensory integration issues. So things progressed into him being kind of an anorexic baby. He refused to go to solids. He could nurse with difficulty, was extremely distractible. The only place I could successfully nurse him was sitting on my bed with the door shut, because even a wind would distract him and he would just stop. So he was really, it was hard that way as far as food, but he was just beautiful and engaging. And in fact, he went into all kinds of therapies. And of course, he was diagnosed with sensory integration dysfunction. But I was just reading some of his medical stuff, and the clinicians, when he was 2, described him as an engaging little boy. And he was that 3rd son that had to just keep his brothers entertained. So he was a ham. And he's got this great red hair. Everybody had a comment on that. So he'd always point his hair out to people if they didn't say anything about it. But at age 4, literally the weekend of his 4th birthday, he finally started eating foods that he hadn't previously eaten. And unfortunately, I was really clueless about pretty much everything. Yeah, I think it's okay. We were eating the standard American diet, and I didn't realize that this was opening a door up for him to eat a massive amount of his allergens. And between the day of his 4th birthday, when he ate a turkey sandwich, which was about the first sandwich he'd eaten of any kind, he was not eating much food. In 3 months, we had lost his eye contact, and he no longer answered to his name. You could finally get his attention,
Had
but
he had more shots then?
He hadn't. He had not just had any shots. So I didn't correlate it with vaccines initially, because the whole sensory integration stuff, they'd never said boo about toxins or anything. I was just clueless about the whole business. So I just said, okay, we're going to feed him the healthiest we can. We're going to give him organic food. We went down that journey. At 10 years old, we did GAPS diet with him, and
that's brutal.
It was really hard, and we got his eye contact back. And really, it was like he didn't have to come through the fog anymore to be present with us. He wasn't normal by any means. I mean, he lost a lot of coordination at the same time that we lost his eye contact. Really, I just lost the boy that I had. I had a different boy after age 4. So, but I can't call it anything other than a miracle happened in our house when JB and Jamie Handley's book came out.
Yeah.
I homeschooled my kids, and Joe and I had been practice writing with me holding his hand for years because he was homeschooled. So I would dictate letters, he'd copy them with my help, and that's what we did, but there was never any original thought. It was just copying whatever I said. And then my friend sent me the book that I had known about, but I was like not brave enough to get it because hope is really expensive, you know. And I knew this book was going to change our lives. I just didn't know if it was going to be our story would be. I couldn't even imagine that our story would be like Jamie's.
So should we go forward and hear from him?
So let's find out.
Can we hear from you? Thank you. So this is a letterboard. For those who don't know, this is a letterboard. Yeah, and you'll see.
I'll turn her around so they can see what it looks like to Joe. Poke the chopstick in his eye. So this is a slow process for him, and we actually just got this letterboard yesterday. Up until this point, he was pointing to a paper letterboard. So what would you like to say to Polly? T H A N. Come on back. Come on back. You're doing good. K. Thank. You're doing good. U or O. Is your nose bothering you?
Do you need a tissue?
Okay, he does.
Okay, hang on. Try to get you one.
Did you just poke that U? There we go. Okay. All right. So why don't you poke that U again to finish that up? Thank you. Come on back. F O 4 Thank you, 4. You got this. L E T T I N. You got it. G, letting. M. E. me, T, E, L, L, tell. Thank you for letting me tell. M, Y, S, T, O, R. Let's get the Y first. Y. Thank you for letting me tell my story.
That's amazing.
That's a mishmash. Joseph, come back. Come back. What else did you want to say? I, W, R, O, T, E, I wrote, L, E, I'm good, I'm good. Keep going. T, T, E, keep going. R, a letter. F, O, R, 4. Keep going, I'm good. Y, O, U. I wrote a letter for you. C, A, N, can. M, Y, my. M, O, M, can my mom. R, E, A, D, read. I, it. N? I don't think you're going for N. Can my mom read it? A. C. L. A-L. A-L. I think you're going for the O. O. U, D. Can my mom read it aloud?
Yes, please. Where is the letter?
The letter is right here.
Thank you for typing that.
He's got great manners. Y, O, U, R, E, your. W, E, L, C, O, M, grab that last letter. You got this. It's not O. You're going for the E. Can you see it? Grab it. You got this. You got this. There you go. Poke it. You got this. Get out of the way. Good. Welcome. You're
Well
welcome.
done. Brilliant.
Okay.
Brilliant.
All right. And let's see. Polly, would you mind handing me my glass, my purse, these old ISV glasses? Right there.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. That was brilliant.
And all these things. He gets, yes, and you did great. You did just fantastic. Why don't you, oh, you want to show your before and after pictures, or are you looking at them? Okay. He wrote this last night, and as I said, we just got this letterboard yesterday, so this is a lot for me. Okay, so it says, Dear Polly and CHD friends, first off, thank you for allowing me to tell my story. I'm trying to imagine the questions you might want to ask me. When I was born, I wasn't able to draw breath, but I never lost consciousness, so I don't believe I suffered any harm from the lack of oxygen. Yes, I can remember it very well. I can remember every day of my life, which is very difficult for some to accept. What do I have to gain by lying? I promise you, I will never lie to you. God hates lies, and so do I. While I can remember every day of my life, the reality of my experience is very different from most people's reality due to the damage I suffered from each vaccine I received. The first, I believe it was vitamin K in my foot, was just stung. Mom's telling me they probably just poked my heel for blood. What I can tell you is they gave me a shot in the thigh the first day and it devastated me. It felt like my leg was on fire. I don't usually cry anymore when I hear this. It felt like my leg was on fire, then the burning sensation moved all over my body except my face and neck. That didn't change until we started the GAPS diet at 10 years old. After the shot, the sensations of my body changed, and it made it very difficult for me to eat or sleep or pretty much do anything. With each shot, my brain hurt more and more, and the input and output from and to my brain grew very interrupted, meaning my body became more disconnected from what my mind wanted to do. They call it sensory integration dysfunction. I call it brain damage. When I began to eat food at age 4, several things followed. Number 1, migraines. Number 2, hallucinations. Number 3, the noise in my body, and he put in parentheses, heart, blood, swallowing, grew so loud it made it very difficult to discern voices. My hearing had been altered on day 1. After I started eating, it became so bad I had an extremely difficult time differentiating who was talking. Add to that the other devastating effect of losing my 3D vision and seeing things that I knew weren't really there. Devastating. Many days I wish I was dead, but I'm very thankful now to be alive. God is good. I believe the toxins and GMOs in the food were too much for my poor body. I mean that literally. My body was poor in what it needed to heal. My system was bankrupt. At this time, I am healed of the hearing distortion thanks to GAPS, and my vision is much improved thanks to hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I still see best when I don't look at an object directly. While I don't track well, I have ways to compensate. As you can see, I still have poor sensory integration and poor motor planning, but I get by pretty well.
That's amazing. You should write a book. Write a column. Write something we can
He
read.
actually is he's an author, and he actually finished his autobiography.
Really?
He
Where
has
is
not
it?
published anything. He's sitting on them. He's actually written 3 children's books and his autobiography, which he's waiting for the big guy up above to give him the word that the world is ready to hear his voice.
Okay, well let me know when that happens, because I definitely want to read your book. And I know our viewers will want to read your book.
It's absolutely incredible, and you can only imagine as his mom how I felt as it unfolded. Because when I got that book in the mail and I read it, I was like, this does not make sense. How can you, he was...
You know what you're looking at? Yeah, I can see you looking at these pictures.
Yeah.
These people all died from vaccine or hospital protocol death. All of these people in here.
Well, praise the Lord. Joseph is here today to tell his story. And he wanted to tell his story because others couldn't tell theirs.
Thank you.
And
Jess.
because of his memory and being able to remember what it felt like. I always knew the world, being alive, hurt him and that he was really uncomfortable. But I had no idea until he wrote about it, what it felt like to live in his body as a young child.
And all because of vaccine.
Yeah.
Disgusting, isn't it?
Yep, Hep-B on day 1. And I was just clueless.
Yeah, we all were. We didn't know.
And he's the last. He's so dear. He is the most, this guy right here is the most encouraging, loving, sweet guy, and you'd never know it from what is presented to the world.
I can't wait to read your book.
I have read it so many times. It encourages me. He's got a gift.
Well, you're eating now, so I don't want to disturb you, but do you have any last words for us, Joseph, before?
Joseph, would you like to?
Anything you want to say to our
Let's
viewers?
see. I'm not sure we can interrupt. Let's try
Maybe
to
we won't
interrupt
interrupt.
the cookies.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't want anyone to interrupt cookies.
I think you got this. I think you can say something to Polly. You've got... Okay. He points in the middle when he wants to end a word. The important. The important. You got this. Let's keep going. You got it. You got it. You're doing great. The important. Gonna grab that G thing. The important thing is ALW always you got this. Always look up. And by that you mean God. SAV. Gonna go get it? Gonna get that SAV. You got this. ED. Saved. My LIF HO I think I lost you. Start back at the H. H. Am I too high? Okay, sorry. I-S. He is. E-N-O-U. You got this. You got this. I don't think you want the Y. Y-G-H. He is enough.
Oh, wow. True. Amen to that. That's amazing.
He's a preacher.
He certainly is a
Do you have more to say? We done? Yeah.
Now back to the cookies. That's never a truer word said. Thank you for that. And I look forward to your book. And viewers, when he tells us that the book's out, we'll tell you. This is a wonderful interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you so much.
We're really
Joe
sorry
really
about
appreciates
the
it.
vaccines. That's what my boy Billy says to me. Mom, I'm really sorry about the vaccines.
Oh,
So, you know?
He's so dear.
So they know.
Oh, yeah.
They know what happened.
Yeah, yep.
All right, big love. And we'll have you guys back on again soon, for sure.
Thank you.
This and all CHD TV programming is made possible by generous support from viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution today to keep our programming going strong. Thank you.